Let's delve into a chapter of Disney's history that stands in stark contrast to the enchanting fairy tales and whimsical adventures we've all grown to love. This story doesn't unfold in a magical kingdom, but rather in the grim realities of World War II. Disney, a name synonymous with childhood innocence, played a significant role in the war effort, not on the battlefields, but through the power of animation and storytelling. While the studio's contributions were seen as patriotic and necessary at the time, a closer examination reveals a complex interplay of propaganda, racial caricatures, and moral dilemmas that continue to spark debate. As we explore Disney's involvement in creating wartime propaganda and educational films, we'll confront the uncomfortable aspects of these efforts. The studio's work during this period raises questions about the ethical boundaries of entertainment and the impact of media on societal attitudes towards war and the enemy. Join us as we uncover the darker side of Disney's legacy, a side where animation and propaganda collide, revealing the truths about a time when storytelling was weaponized in the name of national defense. In the early 1940s, as World War II engulfed the globe, every facet of American society was mobilized to support the war effort, including the entertainment industry. Among those called to serve was the Walt Disney Studios, a company that had built its reputation on bringing joy and laughter to audiences worldwide. Yet as the war raged on, Disney's animation studios took on a new role, far removed from the realms of fantasy and whimsy they were known for. The US government, recognizing the influence and reach of Disney's characters, enlisted the studio in a campaign to bolster American morale, educate soldiers and civilians, and create a sense of unity and purpose. Disney was tasked with producing content that ranged from training films for the military to straight-up propaganda shorts aimed at shaping public opinion about the war and America's enemies. This pivot to wartime production marked a significant departure for Disney. The studio, once dedicated solely to entertainment, now found itself at the forefront of a national propaganda effort. Characters like Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse, beloved symbols of innocence and fun, were repurposed as vehicles for wartime messages, a transformation that blurred the lines between entertainment and political messaging. As Disney dove into its new role, the studio produced hundreds of propaganda and training films, leveraging its storytelling prowess to serve the war effort. However, this chapter of Disney's history is not without controversy. The content of some of these films, particularly those depicting enemy nations, reflected the prejudices and stereotypes of the era, raising questions about the impact and ethics of Disney's wartime propaganda. The studio's foray into war-related content was simply a reflection of the times, a period when the urgency of the war effort was justified, in the eyes of many, I guess. The use of media to rally the nation was standard, yet it also set a precedent for the power of animation to influence public perception and policy, a legacy that continues to influence the role of entertainment in society very heavily today. As Disney shifted its focus to support the war effort, the studio embarked on creating a series of films that remain some of the most controversial in its catalogue. These propaganda pieces, designed to demonize the Axis powers and boost Allied morale, often resorted to racial and ethnic caricatures. Der Fuhrer's Face stands out as a prime example. This 1943 short, featuring Donald Duck in a nightmare scenario where he finds himself working in a Nazi factory, won an Academy Award at the time for its bold satire against Hitler and the Nazi regime. However, the film's use of exaggerated stereotypes and mockery, while reflective of the anti-Axis sentiment of the time, raises questions about the ethical implications of using such imagery for propaganda. Another significant piece, Education for Death, The Making of the Nazi, portrays the indoctrination of a young German boy into Nazi ideology. This film is a stark depiction of the Nazi educational system, but simplifies complex social and political dynamics into a narrative that lacks nuance, potentially reinforcing a one-dimensional view of German society. Commando Duck, featuring Donald Duck again, this time parachuting into a Japanese territory. This one was criticised for its portrayal of Japanese soldiers through racist caricatures, obviously. These sorts of depictions weren't uncommon in wartime propaganda from various countries, but coming from a studio beloved for its family-friendly content, these shorts reveal a darker side of Disney's contributions to the war effort. These films, and others like them, were effective in their time for rallying support for the war and providing clear-cut narratives of good versus evil. However, they also contributed to the spread of pretty bad stereotypes and prejudices that persisted long after the war ended. The use of beloved characters to promote these messages complicates Disney's legacy, blurring the lines between entertainment and propaganda. The controversy surrounding these films is not merely about their content, but also about the power of media to shape perceptions and attitudes. Disney's venture into propaganda demonstrates the studio's significant influence at the time and the responsibilities that came with it. While Disney's propaganda efforts have garnered significant attention and critique over the years, the studio's contribution to the war effort extended into educational realms as well. Disney produced a series of training and instructional films for both military personnel and civilians. However, these educational endeavours, while invaluable in their time, also makes us think about the intersection between education and militarization. Films such as 4 Methods of Flush Riveting served a critical function by providing clear and accessible training to soldiers and factory workers, which was essential for the wartime production boom. These films demonstrated Disney's ability to distill intricate mechanical processes into easily understandable visual narratives. Yet, they also represent a direct involvement of entertainment industries in military operations, blurring traditional boundaries and raising further questions. Beyond the barracks and factories, Disney's educational films aimed at the general public like The New Spirit, which encouraged Americans to pay their taxes to support the war effort, showcased the studio's commitment to national objectives. And while seemingly this one was quite innocuous, these films highlight the power of media to shape civic behaviour and attitudes, further leveraging Disney's influence for government propaganda purposes. Disney's wartime educational films, from training military personnel to influencing public sentiment, demonstrate clearly the studio's incredible impact on American society and the war effort. When examining these films, many further questions are raised about the power of media influence, how we are educated, and using popular media organisations as weapons for the army. As we step back from the scrutiny of Disney's involvement in World War II, a complex picture emerges. Disney's efforts during the war, spanning from direct propaganda to educational content, illustrate a period when the lines between entertainment, education, and political messaging were not just blurred but intentionally crossed. This chapter of Disney's history serves as a powerful reminder of the influence wielded by the media and the ethical considerations that come with it. When we look at the bigger picture of World War II, it's clear that Disney wasn't alone in using media as a tool for shaping public opinion. Every major player in the war, allies and Axis alike, harnessed the power of film and animation to bolster their cause, sway hearts and minds, and paint the enemy in a less than flattering light. What's fascinating here is how similar the tactics were across the board. Disney's animations, which turned Axis leaders into caricatures of villainy, weren't all that different from the way the other side depicted the Allies. It was a universal strategy. Use humour, exaggeration, and stark imagery to make your point and rally your troops and civilians. This puts Disney's wartime contributions in a little bit more context. It wasn't just about entertaining troops or selling war bonds. It was part of a global effort to communicate the stakes of the war and justify the fight. Using beloved characters to deliver these messages, though, might seem jarring to us now, but at the time, it was all hands on deck, and every resource was leveraged. The controversies surrounding Disney's propaganda films, characterized by racial and ethnic caricatures, continue to provoke debate. But it isn't as if Disney is hiding these films. You can find extensive write-ups online from various sources and full copies of the films online fairly easily. These films, while products of their time, invite scrutiny of how powerful media organizations can perpetuate stereotypes and biases. As we navigate this era where media is more pervasive and influential than ever, Disney's wartime legacy underscores the responsibilities of content creators to consider the impact of their work. In conclusion, Disney's role in World War II provides a fascinating lens through which to view the intersections of entertainment, propaganda, and education. Who do you think we should cover next? Leave a comment below with a war hero or story you believe more people should know about. Thanks for watching War Whispers. Catch you next time.